Hare Krishna, welcome everybody. So today we are going to complete chapter 14. It's going to be another wonderful milestone for us all. So before we begin, I'll say the prayers to Guru and God, and I will also play the Guru mantra. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurum Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः.
Hare Krishna. So I will play the slokas. So it's going to start from 14.19.
नान्यं गुणेभ्यः कर्तारं यदा द्रष्टानुपश्यति गुणेभ्यश्च परं वेत्ति मद्भावं सोऽधिगच्छति गुणानेतानतीत्यत्रीन् देही देहसमुद्भवान् जन्म मृत्युजरा दुःखैर्विमुक्तो मृतमश्नुते. अर्जुन उवाच कैर्लिङ्गैस्त्रीन् गुणानेतानतीतो भवति प्रभो किमाचारः कथं चेतान् स्त्रीन् गुणानतिवर्तते. श्रीभगवानुवाच प्रकाशं च प्रवृत्तिं च मोहमेव च पाण्डव न द्वेष्टि सम्प्रवृत्तानि न निवृत्तानि काङ्क्षति उदासीनवदासीनो गुणैर्यो न विचाल्यते गुणा वर्तन्त इत्येवं योऽवतिष्ठति नेङ्गते समदुःखसुखः स्वस्थः समलोष्टाश्मकाञ्चनः तुल्यप्रिया प्रियो धीरस्तुल्यनिन्दात्मसंस्तुतिः मानापमानयोस्तुल्यस्तुल्यो मित्रारिपक्षयोः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी गुणातीतः स उच्यते. मां च यो व्यभिचारेण भक्तियोगेन सेवते स गुणान् समतीत्यैतान् ब्रह्मभूयाय कल्पते. ब्रह्मणो हि प्रतिष्ठाहम् अमृतस्याव्ययस्य च शाश्वतस्य च धर्मस्य सुखस्यैकान्तिकस्य च. ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे गुणत्रयविभागयोगो नाम चतुर्दशोऽध्यायः.
Hare Krishna. So those were the final set of slokas from 14th chapter. So who is reading today?
It's me, Guruji.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. 14.19. When the observer sees no other doer than the three gunas and knows me as being beyond these gunas, they attain my divine nature. 14.20. Transcending these three gunas which arise from the body, one is freed from the mysteries of birth, death, and old age and attains immortality. 14.21. Arjun inquired, O my Lord, by which symptoms or characteristics is one known who has transcended these three modes of material nature. What is their conduct and how do they transcend these three gunas? 14.22 The Supreme Lord said, O Arjuna, one who neither hates illumination, that is arising from sattva, activity, that is arising from rajas, and delusion, that is arising from tamas, when they are present, nor longs for them when they are absent. 14.23 They remain neutral to the gunas and are not disturbed by them, knowing it is only the gunas that act. They stay established in the self without wavering. 14.24 Those who remain equipoised in the happiness and distress, who are established in the self, to whom a clod, a stone, and gold are the same, to whom the agreeable and disagreeable are equal, who is discerning, to whom blame and praise are the same. 14.25 Who remains the same in honor and dishonor, treats both friend and enemy equally, who has renounced all the material undertakings, such a person is said to have transcended the three gunas. 14.26 And those who serve me with undeviating devotional service transcends these gunas and becomes eligible to attain the level of Brahman. 14.27 For I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, the immortal, the imperishable, of eternal Dharma, and of unending transcendental bliss. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Very, very powerful teaching. So, Krishna is concluding this chapter with deep insights. So, he starts by telling us what the true goal in life should be. So, that's where he says, when the seer sees that it is nothing else other than the gunas that are the agents of all action, and when the seer is able to know the self which is higher than those gunas, then they attain my state of being. So it's very important that we need to become the observer. We have to observe and understand that it is the gunas that are constantly manipulating us. And then we have to come to the realization that our higher self is beyond those gunas. And this should be our goal. Because it's not going to come immediately. It's going to take a lot of practice. It's going to take a lot of awareness. But that should pretty much be our goal. Because as we discussed earlier, the gunas, they are not, it is not about good or bad. Because the gunas are the building blocks of the material world. It's like saying is dark bad, is light good. It is not that dark is bad. It is just absence of light. But unless there is darkness, we cannot perceive light. So just like that, we should not ask, is this guna bad? Is that guna good? It is more about understanding that those gunas, they are pretty much the building blocks of the material world. And when we, as the seer, are able to recognize that it is these gunas only that are responsible for all the actions, and we actually are that higher self which is beyond these gunas, if we can reach that stage, Krishna says that is the stage of self-realization. He says, and that is when you pretty much attain my nature. So in 14.19, Krishna is clarifying. He's saying that sattva, rajas, tamas, they're all governing all the activities. The entire material world is governed by these gunas. And the Atma is pretty much a witness. And the Atma is kind of observing how these gunas, they're interacting and, creating all of these illusions and turmoils and everything that we see. So, what Krishna says is the moment we can get into that observer mode, where we are not the victim, but we are just observing and we are able to see how the gunas are acting, he says that is how you can dismantle. We discussed that how ego is binding the soul to the body. So it is the ego that kind of gives us this illusion that we are the body. It's the ego that gives us this illusion that we are the doer. Like for example, Let us say some poor person came in front of you and you gave like a few dollars. Now you are feeling very happy, that I did something good. It's okay. It's okay to feel good. But we have to be careful we don't get into the pride mode, because we should not now immediately start feeling like I'm such a great person because I did something charitable. But what you have to understand is, what do you mean you did something? It was the sattva guna which at that time was predominant, which made you do whatever you did. We need to be aware of that. In other words, we need to be aware that these gunas are pretty much pulling our strings. When the sattva guna pulls your string, you'll end up doing something good. When tamo guna pulls your string, you'll end up doing something bad. But at the end of the day, it is the gunas which are having the remote control over us. But Krishna says this realization is what is going to help dismantle that ego-based structure that we are stuck in. You see, so simple, so methodical. Because see, what we have to understand is these gunas, although the example we gave was action, these gunas, they don't just influence action. They shape emotional, mental patterns, So Krishna has said that sattva is characterized by clarity, goodness, calmness. It is all a side effect of sattva guna. Just like that, passion, too much ambition, restlessness, these are all the functions of rajoguna. And lethargy, delusion, ignorance, these are all some of the side effects of tamoguna or symptoms of tamoguna. So in other words, we shouldn't just say that he is a lazy person. That person is not lazy. That person is unfortunately under the influence of tamoguna, and it is that tamoguna which is making them lazy. The moment they can do the root cause analysis and figure out why tamoguna is predominant, maybe they just are eating the wrong stuff, and if they stop doing that, eventually the tamoguna will reduce and they will no longer be lazy. So it is not the person that was lazy. The person was just a victim of tamoguna. So this is the thought process that Krishna is encouraging us to follow. And also we have to keep in mind that although we keep on saying that sattva-guna gives us all these good things, sattva-guna gives us clarity, sattva-guna also creates bondage. And it creates bondage through happiness and other positive things, but it is still a bondage. So that is why Krishna says, understand all of this. Your goal is to first of all reach sattva-guna and then use that as a stepping stone and rise above all gunas. That is the absolute ultimate goal. So that is where he starts this set of slokas. So he starts from 14.19 where he says that Nanyam gunebhyo kartaram yada drashtanupasyati gunebhyasya param vetti madbhavam sodhigacchati. So he says, when the seer is perceiving that there is no other doer apart from the gunas and knows what is beyond those gunas, he says such a person is going to attain my state. So two things he says. First thing, the seer means the witness. We, as the witness, first we have to understand and realize that it is the gunas which are pulling all the strings. It is the gunas that are causing all the actions that we see around us. First. Second, we are the higher self. And that higher self is beyond that guna. In other words, the gunas cannot pull the strings of the soul. So when these two things happen, Krishna says, then you attain my state. So that is what is pretty much means you are self-realized. And Krishna has said self-realized means you are eligible for liberation. And liberation means what? Liberation means you attain the state of Krishna. That is what is the whole message here. So this is the mode. So when Krishna says you have to overcome gunas, what is it? So stepwise Krishna says. He says first, your immediate focus, this is for all of us. Our immediate focus should be eliminate tamas. That is not negotiable. Okay. Do whatever we can, and we have to systematically eliminate tamas, with vigor. Very important. And then we have to moderate rajas. It is not easy to totally eliminate rajas, As long as we are living in the material world, there are a lot of actions we have to do. We do need to, have some Rajoguna based qualities as well. So the key is eliminate tamas, moderate rajas, and promote sattva. This is how stepwise the guidance is given. Pay attention. The first step is eliminate tamas, because until you eliminate tamas, you cannot moderate rajas. Very important, because some of us can get into the mindset, somehow I'm special, somehow I'm unique. So I can keep doing this nonsense I'm doing, and somehow, because I'm favorite of Krishna, I'm something, very special, I'll still be able to. That's not going to work. Okay, so eliminating tamas extremely important. We already discussed what are all tamasic things and how we should avoid that. We will keep talking more in the later chapters as well. So then what after that? Because as soon as sattva is predominant, you will start feeling more clarity. You will yourself realize what needs to be done next. So this question of what do we do after sattva-guna will automatically, the answer will come once you are established in sattva-guna. So the shifting of perspective is what is important. What is the shifting of perspective? In other words, instead of identifying with those gunas, we have to become an observer of those gunas. For example, instead of, some people, they are very proud, they will proudly say, I am a very action-oriented person. You see, there is a flaw in this statement, right? Because what do you mean, I am action-oriented? Because what is the right mindset? The right mindset should be humbly realizing that I am performing actions because of the influence of Rajoguna. I have been action-oriented because my Rajoguna was predominant. And that should come with humility, because you should understand and realize that the Rajoguna was pulling your strings. That is why you became action-oriented. See? So when you say, I am action-oriented, it is actually a victim mindset, because you don't even realize that somebody else is pulling your strings, and you give in to pride. And you say that I am action-oriented. So that's the problem. Shift from there and say that the actions I have been performing, or this whole mindset of being action-oriented, is because of the influence of Rajoguna. Like this, we have to gradually shift our perspective and focus to an observer mode. That is a very, very important lesson here. Because we are not the body, we have discussed this so many times. We are that higher self, we are that Atma. That is the reason why we are able to observe ourselves. That is very, very important. And that Atma is beyond all these gunas. So back in second chapter itself, Krishna had explained how the Atman is not subject to birth and death. I hope you all remember. It was a beautiful shloka 2.20, where Krishna said, Na jayate mriyate va kadapi. Where he said that the soul is neither born nor does it ever die. Once it exists, it never ceases to be. The soul is without birth, eternal, immortal, ageless. The soul is not destroyed when the body is destroyed. So Krishna gave so many different explanations fundamentally. So in other words, even back in second chapter, Krishna set the foundation for what he is going to teach later on. So now he is saying the same thing. He is saying that soul is beyond those gunas. The soul is beyond all of those things. And it is our job to just realize that. That's all we need to do. And then Krishna talks about sattvic living, and how we should go about that sattvic life. Is the most fundamental aspect is, can anybody guess what is the most important thing that will impact whether we are sattvic or not? Raise your hands, please, and then I can. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3. Yes, Apurva?
Food.
Thank you. Most important, diet. We discussed that in the last session as well. Okay, I will keep repeating it, even if you get annoyed. But that is the fundamental. Because as we discussed in the previous session, the essence of what you eat becomes the essence of your mind. That's the law of the universe. So the diet has to be very, very strictly followed. if you want to establish yourself in sattva. And in the 17th chapter, Krishna will give you a lot of more prescriptive teachings on what kind of food is sattvic, what kind of food is rajasic, and so on and so forth. But I will just tell you in brief. We will again go in deep in the 17th chapter. But it doesn't mean that until I finish 17th chapter, I can, eat whatever I want. I'm just saying. So the practice should start right away. So Krishna says foods that help longevity, foods that purify our inner self, foods that bestow strength, which is good health, happiness, satisfaction, which are nurturing. This kind of food is sattvic. Does it sound boring? No. In fact, sattvic food is the best food because it helps us live longer, live happier, live healthier. See? So in other words, what kind of foods are not like this? They are the foods that are appealing just to the senses. For example, I want to go and consume intoxicants. They are appealing to the senses, but they're not really helping you live longer or happier or healthier. Just like that, maybe some food is really very sweet. Your tongue is running behind that, but it is not really going to help you live a happy. So this is all Krishna is saying. It's not really, rocket science. And then it is about recognizing that the gunas, they are the agents. And if you remember in the 3rd chapter, I'm giving you these pointers so that you can appreciate the depth. You can appreciate how everything connects with everything else. So when you go back to the 3rd chapter, some of you may remember that Krishna spoke about gunas even then. It's a very, very tough question I'm going to ask. Does anybody remember in 3rd chapter, did Krishna speak about gunas? Okay, that's okay. I'm not expecting because 3rd chapter was mostly about karma. But then he did speak about gunas. So 3.27, where Krishna said, Prakruteha kriyamanani guneha karmani sarvashah ahankara vimuda atma kartaham iti manyate. He has said that all actions in all respects, they are driven by these 3 gunas. But people who are deluded, they think, I am the doer. So it is not just muda means delusional. He says vimuda means extremely delusional, utterly foolish, utterly delusional. Such people, they come under this ego-driven illusion that they are the doers. So this came back in the 3rd chapter itself. But see what Krishna again there spoke about these gunas. These gunas being responsible for all actions. And in 14th chapter, he has gone into depth about these gunas. And he's saying the same thing again. And he says that when sattva guna becomes predominant, then you will have enough calmness to realize that the gunas are what. See, in other words, what I'm saying now is still theory. And what we have always said that jnana is not important. It has to become vijnana. We have always said that it has to become experiential. So this theory that you are studying now, how will it become an experiential reality? Krishna says, eliminate tamas, promote sattva, it will become a reality. He says, when your sattva guna increases, you will yourself begin realizing that the gunas are what are responsible for all actions. So he says, he's not saying just because I am saying it is how it is. Krishna is saying, if your sattva guna becomes predominant, you will realize it yourself. So give it a try. Now, how does it help us? It helps us in one more very important way. What I'm talking about is, once you start to realize that the gunas are responsible, the gunas are manipulating people's actions, people's thoughts, what will come naturally? Empathy. Sulataji, you wanted to say something?
I was thinking samatvam will set.
Yes, very important. Very important. I'm going to come to that. Definitely. But samatvam, one step before samatvam, what happens, usually if you ask anybody, why are you not calm? 99.99%, the reason will be somebody else. I'm disturbed because, my son spoke like this, my friend did like this, my lover said like this, my wife was like this, my boss was like that. You see? In other words, Sulataji is very right. In other words, if we are not understanding that what will that poor person do? I mean, it's not that poor person's fault. That person just became a victim to that guna. If we can think like that, I mean, if we can understand and realize that is what is going on, then that will not disturb you. You see? How will you be disturbed with the other person if you understand that the other person is a victim? Somebody is yelling at you and you are all hurt. How did that person talk like that? But if you have that understanding that that person is just a victim of those gunas, then you can actually feel empathy because that person is suffering. That is why they are, so angry in front of you. You see, very, very important shift. And if that shift comes, when will that shift come? If you are actually able to understand this mechanism of these gunas. And that is what Krishna is beautifully saying. Krishna is saying, once you understand this, you will develop empathy and you will be able to understand that, we should focus on the problem and not the person. We discussed this earlier also. We should not, brand somebody and say that that person is a thief. That is judgment. But we have to understand what the root cause is, and focus on the problem. Why does somebody feel the need to do this? If you start thinking that way, then that aligns more with reality. That aligns more with how the universe is structured. Very, very powerful. That is what brings us to Pragma 14. Pragma 14 is focus on the problem, not the person, because it is the gunas that are the real culprits. So very, very important. See, in olden days, it was against dharma to harm a messenger. Some of you may have know this. Yes, you might have seen it in some movies or some, Mahabharata also. You might have seen it in the TV serial. They will always remind you that you cannot get angry at the messenger. He is just a messenger. They will say, So we should not be, retaliating against the messenger because the message belongs to somebody else. Somebody else gave him the message. The same way, when somebody is not behaving the way you want them to behave, don't get angry at the person because they are just a messenger. Who is giving the real message? It is those gunas, which you cannot see, but they are the real masterminds. They are pulling the strings. And if we can come to that realization, then we will be able to automatically be more calm because that is what disturbs us. And you understand and you target the root cause of the disturbance, then as Sulataji said, you can go towards samatvam. Isn't that important and powerful? Now again, let us take one step back and revisit. What is the prerequisite to be able to understand and realize that gunas are what are causing all these problems? What do you need for that? Raise your hands, please. Okay, one hand I have, two hands. Sandeep ji, we have not heard you in a while, yeah?
Amanitvam.
Correct. So if you have that, whatever we are saying will make sense. Okay, what will be the next step? Okay, you have amanitvam and you kind of are trying to understand what Krishna is teaching now. Now you really want to get into a mode of vijnana. Now you really want to observe and realize that the gunas are the culprits. For that, what you need next? Yes, you can say that. Exactly. That's what we discussed just a few minutes ago. So, you have to make sure that you are promoting your own sattva guna. You are supporting your own sattva guna. Because when your sattva guna increases, you will automatically get into a mode of realizing this fact. Realizing that this is the mechanism. The gunas are what are causing all the problem. You cannot get into that realization as long as your tamoguna or rajoguna is predominant. Your sattva guna should start becoming predominant, then the realization will come. You see? Okay. So some acharyas, they have proposed a very straightforward way to nurture this sattva guna and promote that sattva guna. So again, I think Sulataji reminded us a few sessions earlier. This is what we call it as ABCD formula: association, books, chanting, and diet. What is association? Satsanga, keeping the company of people who are spiritually inclined. And even in Srimad Bhagavatam, you can see, I will give you the shloka number, you can note it down and read it later. It is 3.25.25. There in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that in the association of pure devotees, discussions about my heroic deeds and glories becomes very pleasing to both the heart and the ears. And by cultivating such discussions, one quickly advances on the path of liberation, and thus faith, attachment, and devotion, they steadily develop. So in that shloka, in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is clearly said that Satsanga will be a catalyst. Satsanga will help us progress quicker. So that is part of Kapila's teachings, where Kapila is giving these instructions to his mother, Devahuti, where he is describing the process of how to attain liberation and how to develop bhakti. There he says that Satsanga is one of the most important aspects of getting there. So I'll tell you some key concepts from that sloka. One is Satam Prasanga, that is the company of sadhus, pure devotees, is vital because their company itself becomes a catalyst for spiritual transformation. And then Virya Samvida, which is the glories of the Lord, they are not just stories, because those stories themselves have that divine power, they have the divine energy. So hearing those stories, Leelas of Krishna, of Rama, and all of those avatars, that has an energy in itself, which will help us propel in this spiritual path. And then the narrations of the Lord are also, they are like a nectar. Arjuna, how he says to Krishna that what you say is nectar. It's not like nectar. He says it is nectar. And what is the quality of nectar? Nectar's quality is it is very soothing. So it will soothe our heart. And again, that soothing itself is a very sattvic experience. Okay, that was association. Second is books that we are all well aware of. Books like, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana. There are so many of scriptures, Upanishads. If possible, if we are all fortunate, let us study them under the guidance of some instructor, some teacher, and also let us study them in the company of satsang, because these two together will magnify the impact. Third is chanting. We are all practicing it, hopefully. All of us are doing. So there is an Upanishad called Kali Santarana Upanishad. And there also it is said that, this Maha Mantra has to be chanted. So there are two mantras that Acharyas have recommended. There are more than two, but primarily two, which I also ascribe to. One of them you all know, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This we all know because we have chanted it many times. And the other very potent mantra is what we chant at the beginning, Om Namo Narayanaya. Because Om, you all know, Om is the sacred sound, the sound of creation itself. Namo means salutations. And Narayanaya, that is Lord Narayana. So in other words, we are taking refuge. So Om Namo Narayanaya means I bow down to the Lord Narayana, who is the supreme being. Very, very important. And because Namo means complete surrender with humility and devotion. So it is not just verbally saying Om Namo Narayanaya. When you say Namo, that Namo should bring up that feeling of surrender. That Namo, when you say Om Namo, it should bring up the feeling of amanitvam, the feeling of I'm letting go of my ego. And when you chant like that, it is a extremely powerful mantra. And what is Narayana? Nara means it is water. And water is like the primordial substance from which all creation has emerged. And we can also say it is kind of the womb of all creation. Okay. And Ayana means the refuge or abode. So therefore, Narayana means one who is the refuge of all beings and one who is the source and sustainer of the entire universe. You see how beautiful this is. So you are saying the Om, align with that universal sound, Namo, I surrender, I give up my ego, I give up my pride. I'm completely surrendering Narayana, because surrendering to whom? That supreme, that source of everything. And the abode, like you are my abode, you are my refuge. So if you understand this and then you chant Om Namo Narayanaya, it is probably the most powerful mantra that you can chant and get elevated very, very quickly. And then the fourth is diet. I think we have already discussed a lot about diet, but fundamentally, absolutely avoid tamasic, anything tamasic. And then moderate your rajasic and gradually increase the sattvic. That is pretty much the technique. There is no cheating. You cannot say that, okay, I will moderate tamas, and it's not going to work. It's like it's going to take you forever to get into that realization mode. Okay. So then we come to this question of, okay, what is the characteristics of a person who has understood this? What is the characteristics of a person who has realized and, overcome these gunas? So this is what Arjuna is asking in 14.21. Did Arjuna ask something similar in the Bhagavad Gita earlier? Okay, I have one hand. It's probably slightly I'm memory test. Okay, Sulata ji.
He asked about how does a sthitaprajna look like, 2.54.
Yes. Sthitaprajna Lakshanam. So he had asked, what is the Lakshana of one who is a Sthitaprajna? How do we identify? So this question is very similar, and starting from verses 14.22 to 14.27, Shri Krishna is explaining the symptoms. Okay, so he starts in 14.22 where he says, "O Arjuna, one who neither hates illumination." Illumination means whatever is arising from sattva guna, or activity that is coming from rajas, or delusion that is coming from tamas when they are present. So in other words, identify that tamas is causing this, but don't hate tamas, because then you are giving into that tamas only. So it's like a paradox. It's like a vicious cycle. At the same time, don't long for them when you don't see the presence. Don't long for something that is pleasant, and don't hate something that is unpleasant. So that is how Krishna starts the lakshana of somebody who has overcome these gunas. So what is this? As Sulataji previously said, this is the sthitaprajna. This is where Krishna had used the word sthitaprajna earlier. Okay, so somebody who is even-minded amidst pleasure, pain, shitoshna sukha dukkada. You remember that is what Krishna had said earlier. So it doesn't matter, pleasure, pain, gain, loss, praise, blame. Like today you will be saying, Guruji, you're awesome. Tomorrow you may say, Guruji doesn't know what he's talking about. But I should not totally feel flattered today, and tomorrow I should not feel totally upset and dejected either. That is the sthitaprajna. That is a lection of somebody who is understood that it is all a play of gunas. So today if you are praising me, probably because your sattva guna is predominant, but tomorrow you may give in to tamo guna, and the same person will tomorrow say something nasty to me, But I need to understand that it is that guna. See? And once I understand, it makes me more of a sthitaprajna. So now that word will make more sense. The word that we learned in chapter 2. Okay. See, I'll give you another kind of a tip. Okay. This is a very practical tip. Here we have Krishna has said that if you overcome your gunas, you become a sthitaprajna. So, see, in the universe, there is a law. The law says if A equals to B, then B has to be equal to A. Seems pretty silly, right? Yeah. But what it means, if A equals to B, you don't know how to manipulate A, but if you know how to manipulate B, then go ahead and manipulate B. Then A has to match it. That is the law of the universe. See, that is the secret. So that is why if you read the law of attraction, what they will say is, somebody, maybe one of you is wishing for something to happen. Okay. Okay. Who wants to say, do we have somebody here who is wishing for something? Who is having some kind of a desire? Wow. Nobody? Everybody is already overcome all material desires. Acha, theek hai. Yes, Chitra ji.
Do we have to share what is the desire?
Not the real ones. You can make up something small maybe.
Acha.
Everyone will
Okay.
have desire, Guruji. Nobody
Smita ji,
will-
what?
Yes.
You can share. I mean, if you are free to, if feel free to share if you think you want to, yeah, but no pressure. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to open a shelter for homeless.
Very good. So say that is the desire. Okay. So now tell me how you will feel once you open that shelter for homeless. So you don't have to explain.
Yeah.
Try to visualize yourself and try to visualize how you are going to feel. Just visualize that, okay, I already have a shelter that I have created and there are people coming there and I'm able to help them, and you are seeing all of that. What is the feeling? Try to catch that feeling. Okay. So in other words, A equals to B. If you are able to create that shelter for people, B is how you feel. Now, you don't know how to make A happen, right? But you know how to make B happen. What stops you from feeling that way right now? So the law of attraction says, if you can consistently be in that feeling, then the A has to happen. See, that is why in the scriptures, they have said that you can never find happiness as long as you chase happiness. You can never find happiness till you are trying to find it. That is the whole, that is because the moment you are saying, I want happiness, you are in a mode of unhappiness. So how can you be in a mode of unhappiness and try to find happiness? Because that is against the law of the universe. You see? So we can talk a lot about this. I can conduct a separate session on this whole manifestation aspect. But the fundamental part of the manifestation aspect is this. This is why if you read any book on law of attraction, they will always say that feel as if what you want has happened. Why? Is because of this law of the universe. The law that says if A equals to B, then B has to be equal to A. If you cannot control A, control B. You see? Now, why are we talking about that? Because here Krishna said you have to overcome the gunas. And Krishna said once you overcome the gunas, overcoming the gunas is A. And Krishna says what will be the symptom once you overcome the gunas? You become a sthitaprajna. You see? But you don't know how to overcome gunas. But you know how to be a sthitaprajna, na? So if you try more and more to be a sthitaprajna, then A has to happen. In other words, if you try to be more and more calm, more and more equipoised, able to handle pleasure, pain, heat, cold, calmly, the more and more you can practice that, eventually you will overcome the gunas. So beautiful, so powerful. That is my tip for all of you. Yes, when Krishna says overcome the gunas, it may feel very complex, it may feel very overwhelming. How do I overcome gunas? But then Krishna has given the secret tip here itself. He says, when you overcome gunas, you become a sthitaprajna. That is the secret. Latch on to that and say that, okay, but I know how to be a sthitaprajna. Focus on that, and eventually you will reach the stage Krishna wants us to reach. And you'll overcome the gunas. Isn't that beautiful? Again, if you want a reminder, what is sthitaprajna? Sthitaprajna is not that big a deal. Every one of us is capable of being a sthitaprajna. All we are saying is sorrow, joy, be stable. If you face a little bit of sorrow, don't just collapse. If you face a little bit of joy, don't just jump around and, mindlessly, run around in a joy. Don't do that also. Don't do this also. It is not that hard. Just like that, if somebody is saying something good about you, it's okay to feel good, but you don't need to go advertise everywhere that, look what people are said about me, I'm so great. And vice versa. If somebody says something negative, don't just totally crumble. And don't negatively again go and tell people, how can that person tell again? This is not that hard to do. And the more of this, the more we can practice, we become a sthitaprajna, and more we become a sthitaprajna, you will automatically be master of your gunas. And once you are a master of your gunas, you are winning the game. Then Krishna has promised that you are going to come close to him and eventually become him. And Krishna again reminds us of devotion as the supreme path. So in 14.26, Krishna is confirming that one of the other symptoms is also the person will be very devotional. He will be devoted to me. That is a side effect of being sattva guna being predominant. So if you put these two together, you should become a sthitaprajna, not from a very material sense. It is not like, brute forcing and saying, now again, you see the pitfall there. The pitfall there is, now you are able to handle, sorrow and joy, and now you are feeling very proud. See, I handled sorrow and joy. You see the problem? Again you go back. So Krishna says, be a sthitaprajna in the mode of devotion, in humility. So Sandeep ji, as he said, amanitvam, very important. Okay? And be surrendered. Chant Om Namo Narayanaya. Be in that mindset of I surrender, you are my refuge. And practice being a sthitaprajna. And that will take you towards liberation. That is a sure, short way. How much more simpler can Krishna make it for us? On how to navigate this path and how to, succeed in this journey. In other words, if you are just having intellectual knowledge, there is no guarantee that you will get freedom, because intellect is a very dangerous thing. What is required is this understanding that I will do rightful action, but it is the grace of God which is going to, at the end of the day, make me successful. So this is the complete package. All of this has to come together. That is the process. So in 7th chapter again, Krishna spoke about gunas. Does anybody remember that Krishna spoke about gunas in the 7th chapter? Everybody is asking, was there a 7th chapter? Yes, there was a 7th chapter. Okay. Okay, so there Krishna had said something like, 7.14 you can note and you can do a revision of that. So in 7.14, Krishna had said that this divine energy of mine, which is consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, in other words, the 3 gunas, it is very difficult to overcome. Krishna himself has acknowledged that it is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me, they can easily cross it. Now you see why you need to be surrendered. Because when you are surrendered, you no longer become the victim of pride. How can you be free as long as you are a victim? That is the whole concept. So Krishna had said that it is very difficult, but if you are devoted, if you are surrendered to me, then you can overcome all of that. So I want to also remind you that Krishna has warned us that this material nature, it can trap our souls for countless lifetimes. Now in some scriptures there is a reference of a very big number. It is like 4 crore 32 lakh. There is a number 4 crore 32 lakh, plus or minus something. Those many lifetimes can happen within a single day of Brahma. I mean, we are talking about those many our lifetimes. And so if we are not going to liberations, just imagine so many countless lifetimes we have to take. I keep coming back again and again and again and again. So the point is not to make us feel hopeless, but the point is to highlight the fact that what we have now is a gift. It's a precious gift. This human life is a gift. And we can use this life to free ourselves from this endless cycle. And as Krishna has also said this, Shankaracharya has also said this, many acharyas have said this, that it is possible to get mukti in this lifetime itself. Even if we all make a promise to ourselves, even if we all are willing to promise right now, if you can all promise that we are going to be having the conviction and consistency, from now we will do it, and we are not saying you should do all Ashtanga Yoga. All we are saying is, amanitvam, how hard is it? Right? And surrender, how hard is it? And trying to be a sthitaprajna, how hard is it? And trying to be consistent, how hard is it? If we can, and if we make up our mind, and if we can promise this to ourselves, that's the best thing we can do to ourselves, because the assurance given by Krishna is you can get liberation even in this lifetime. And he has given another assurance that we saw in the previous session is, doesn't matter. This is what many saints have said. Even the worst sinners can get liberation. And the opposite is also true. You may be a saint, but you can say even a saint can fall down. Even a saint can, get stuck in samsara. And even a sinner can get liberation. So it doesn't matter what our journey has been so far. If we commit, even from now, we still have the opportunity to get liberation in this lifetime itself. And then in 14.27, Krishna is reaffirming, he is saying that I am the root of Brahman, I am the source of immortality, I am the foundation of righteousness, I am the foundation for extreme, supreme happiness. Krishna is saying, why don't you make me your goal? Why don't you make it your ultimate purpose? So can we maybe think of some practical applications? Diet, association, reading scriptures, chanting the name, ABCD formula. Please revise that. Try to follow that. And in second chapter, 2.40, Krishna has given us assurance where Krishna has said that even a small effort on this path, it can protect us from great danger and great fear. So let us commit to this path and let us be consistent. And then every single act or mindful act, always choose Shreya over Preya. Preya is very, very powerful. Okay, so we have to always choose Shreya. The more we choose Shreya, the more easier it will become to continue choosing Shreya. And how to do that? If you want to choose Shreya over Preya, you have to first be aware that I have these choices. You have to be aware that, whatever is in front of me is Preya. That will come with mindfulness. We have studied all of this. I'm just trying to revise and put them in more simpler words once again. So avoid harmful foods, avoid harmful habits, focus on nishkama karma. Okay, all of this is going to help us achieve our ultimate goal because they all work together. And very important, once again, be mindful of this very powerful ego, because that ego is all the time going to try and bring you back. It will always do that. And we need to be mindful of that. So always remember, A equals to B means B should be equal to A. Anytime you are trying to accomplish anything on this path, always try to understand what is the cause and what is the effect. And if you are not able to change the effect, change the cause. The effect has to change. That is A equals to B equals to B equals to A. And in this particular context, we spoke about just try to be calm, try to be balanced. The more you are able to be balanced, the more you will align with being a sthitaprajna. And the more you become a sthitaprajna, automatically you will become a master of your gunas. And once you become a master of the gunas, that is what is taking you towards liberation. But just keep in mind that you have to do that in a mode of humility and with devotion. Because if those two things are missing, then becoming a master of gunas become a prideful thing. And that will again take you in the opposite direction. See? 3 things: humility, devotion, samatvam. Easy? Okay. And how that is what we discussed when we said A equals to B means B equals to A. Okay. Then Maya, we already discussed how Maya is always there. And the only way to escape from Maya is surrender. Another reason why Amanitvam is important. Because with surrender, you can get the grace of God and overcome Maya. Okay. And then finally, Krishna has said that don't rejoice. Once you are become sattvic, don't rejoice in that also. Because being sattvic is beautiful, but even that is a bondage. Okay, so don't get too attached to that feeling of sattva, and you have to overcome that also. See, Advaita Vedanta, Vishishta Advaita, Dvaita, they are all different philosophical paths. But they all share the same fundamental belief that the soul has to transcend all these bodily identifications. So, if you say Advaita, then it talks more about Brahman. If you talk about Vishishta Advaita, it will talk more about a personal God who is distinct from us. If you look at Dvaita, it talks about a permanent duality where Jiva and Paramatma, they are always separate. But doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the message is always the same. The message always says, your soul has to be liberated from that which is material. That message is common across all philosophies. And what is common across all philosophies is the fact that it is the gunas which are going to bind that soul, that jiva. So as long as we are not found a way to master the gunas, we are going to be bound. So no matter which philosophy you follow, this teaching is same everywhere. That says that we need to be masters of these gunas and we need to liberate our soul from this bondage. And finally, again, I want to remind all of you that all this jnana has to become Vigyan, and it has to become Vigyan from a mode of humility and surrender. If that can happen, then we are all, there is nothing stopping any of us from becoming a Jivana Mukta, where we can get liberation in this lifetime itself. So Hare Krishna, with that I'll stop talking. We have just covered a very powerful and very practical chapter which speaks about gunas. So hope this helps all of us reach our goal. So the floor is yours. Feel free if you have any questions, comments. Sulata ji, yes.
Guruji, this reminds the example of Sri Ramakrishna Guruji, how he was in the state of joy and bliss always, Mazar Kuti, but he was not attached to that also. He was raised about that also.
Yes. So actually the Mazar Kuti is because people could feel joy in the hut. It was not just that Ramakrishna was all the time joyful. It was, he radiated that kind of energy that the whole hut felt like a place of joy, place of bliss, and each one of us is capable of that effect. Most of the times there are people who cannot stand us, because we come with so much bias, we come with so much of our own baggage, and and we ourselves are victims so many times we don't even realize that we are victims of our own gunas. And, so once we overcome all of that, then we have the capacity to become, somebody whose presence makes others feel joyful. So Chitraji, your goal is very pious. It's a very good goal, but I think an even simpler goal and more practical goal is making sure that in our presence, others are feeling joyful. In our presence, others are feeling blissful. That way the whole world becomes a shelter. So thank you so much.
And Guruji, you had spoken about this, given an example where I quoted Einstein. Einstein told that a problem which is created can be solved with the same level of consciousness with which it was created. So being in this Satoguna, it's like raising ourselves to higher consciousness.
Exactly.
Because we know that we are creating a problem with this when our mind is in bondage and intellect is not working, deluded. So some higher, we have to raise ourselves. Only then
Beautiful.
we can get.
Yeah, very beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for bringing up that very important lesson again. So as she mentioned, we cannot solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created the problem. So the solution comes only when your level of consciousness is higher than the one that created the problem, right? So in other words, if you are yourself tamasic, there is no way you can, identify that tamoguna is a problem. If you have to catch tamoguna in action, you have to be rajasic at least. You see, just like that, if you have to catch rajoguna, you have to be sattvic. You see, so you have to elevate your level of consciousness, and eventually you have to rise above sattva-guna, because that is how you can totally be free. You cannot be in sattva-guna and try to become that which is beyond sattva-guna. You have to yourself elevate your level of consciousness. So thank you so much. So that is why Krishna has said these tips he has given, where he has said that avoid tamasic food, avoid tamasic habits. So because can you directly see, because we don't even know how the gunas look like. We don't know. Like if I tell you control your tamoguna, how do you do that? No, there are no buttons, there are no switches. But then the same A equal to B applies, where Krishna has said that, if you are under influence of tamoguna, then what happens? You are lethargic. So don't be lethargic. Make a resolve that I will not be lazy. Even things like that, small things, they will impact the control that the gunas have on them, and of course the food, the diet, the habits. Krishna said that if you eat this, then you will get predominance of this guna. So you cannot control the guna, but you can always control what you eat. And that is why Krishna has also said that be very, very careful about your diet. Because if the diet becomes sattvic, automatically your sattva guna has to be positively impacted. That is the whole message. So